Well, hi guys, welcome, and who dat? I'm Joe. Thanks for tuning in to Rosenfield 10, where I cover our beloved Bless You Boys in black and gold, the New Orleans Saints. Are you a Who Dat fan? If you're a Who Dat fan, subscribe to my channel. I love the Saints as much as you do, and I'm going to be covering them all off season. When you see one of my videos, you get to hear what I'm thinking, and then you tell me what you're thinking in the comments. I respond to my comments. Unlike some of those other Saints providers who tell you to comment 100,000 times, but they never ever respond. They won't even like your comment, nothing. You have no idea whether they're listening to you or not. Well, I'm listening to you. So let me know what you think. And in this video, I have absolutely nothing prepared, but I have a few minutes to record. And I'm just going to talk about the state of the Saints now that the season is over. Well, we finished in the top 10 in defense, and that was pretty shocking for me. I predicted that our defense would struggle, and I also predicted that our offense would look a lot better than it did. Overall, I was expecting us to finish in the top 10 in offense. Man, was I off. Well, now that we've got the quarterback situation figured out, and Kellen Moore as a head coach seems to be doing a better job with everything, play calling, team morale, all this stuff. There were times during the season when I wasn't sure about Kellen Moore, but the way the season ended, I'm thinking that he's a pretty good choice for head coach. I'm I'm thinking that because he's a former player and because he's apparently going to fashion this culture in that way, almost like a player's first mentality. They were taking all that time off in the training camps and the OTAs and everything else, and you know, doing these activities as a team off the field. I mean, I saw the point of it, but when we start the season 0-4, I'm thinking maybe you should have spent more time practicing and less time bonding. We finally win a game, and then we end up losing four more in a row. Yeah, I wasn't quite sure. But, through all of that, the team seemed to stay together as a unit. The players seemed to be believers in where they were going with Kellen Moore as their leader, even though they didn't have a lot of wins to show for it. A lot of things happened to this team. I mean, we there was a point when, right before the trade deadline, we were trying to cut some fat. We almost traded away Alante Taylor. We end up trading Rashid Shaheed and Trevor Penning, and then we lose Brandon Cooks because he doesn't want to play anymore. Not over here. And yeah, at that point, being 1-8, yeah, it didn't seem like there was a very bright future ahead for the Saints. Well, we finished with Tyler Shuckett as quarterback, and we finished winning four games in a row before dropping the last one. Tyler Shuck ends up 5-4 as a starter after Rattler had went 1-7. So definitely the team's turning around. And you strip away all of this, what seemed to be really good players, Rashid Shaheed, Brandon Cooks, Trevor Penning, who was, being forced to play on that offensive line all year long, like beating your head against a wall. And you get rid of all of that, and not to mention some of the injuries that crept in, and then before you know it, we're playing the last game of the year with basically a preseason roster, besides Kelvin Banks, who ended up getting hurt in the game anyway, and Cesar Ruiz had come back. Taliese Fuanga was back. And other than that, you just got a bunch of backups running around there. Chris Olave was out. No tight ends after Jawan Johnson. All of your running backs are gone. You're down to people who weren't on the team at the beginning of the year. Yeah, it didn't seem like in that situation you would have had a chance to win a bunch of games at all. You almost pulled it off against Atlanta, though, that's for sure. Very close and shocking, actually, to think about what Tyler Shuck had to work with there at the end of the season and to be pulling off wins anyway. Shuck obviously elevated the rest of the team around him. And you can hear from a lot of the players on the team that they're bought into what Shuck's doing, and they're bought into what Kellen Moore is doing too. A couple of players mentioned the team bonding events that they did, as part of the reason why they all felt like a Sammy. My Sam loves me so much, but he stays at my feet. He doesn't want me to hold him. He doesn't want to come up here and lay next to me. He wants to rub on the end table that's holding the camera. So, and when you see me moving my arms like this, I'm petting a cat, constantly petting a cat. I've got 12 of them, so I'm constantly petting a cat. And I got a big old beautiful dog laying over there too that likes some lovin's too. You can tell I have nothing prepared because I'm I'm just rambling. I'm going to prepare something, more concrete for Thursday. So tune in. We're going to have mock drafts. We're going to do positional breakdowns, and we're going to talk about, what the team should do moving forward. This is basically just a reflection on everything that's happened in the last 4 months. So yeah, I think we lose the game to Atlanta. We finish the year 6-11, but there's still a good feeling around the team. Tyler Shuck is the man. He really is an exceptional passer of the football. He has done some things this year that I wasn't sure he had the ability to do. Uh, the awareness in the pocket, the movement to be able to escape pressure, and when there was pressure, how he handled it. We didn't see any crazy throws that were highlight worthy, low light worthy. We didn't see a lot of bad decisions from the quarterback. I mean, what we saw was it felt like a guy that had been there and done that. He didn't seem overwhelmed about anything. I mean, the more stripped down the team got, the more we were winning. And yeah, that's a pretty good feeling to know that if something happens, if the injury bug hits, and we have to go in there with the bare minimum, if Tyler Shuck is our quarterback, I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to be pretty competitive. So overall, I'm happy with the job Kellen Moore's done. The main thing is keeping the team together, having them try, even though we were out of it so early. It seemed like most of the players were pretty excited to be here. Obviously, Brandon Cooks wasn't. And after the season ended, we got a bunch of press conferences from players, and some people acted like they wasn't sure if they were coming back, like Demario Davis. I think it's all a question of the front office getting something worked out with these players. Do you bring Demario Davis back? Do you bring Cameron Jordan back? Taysom Hill? Yeah, there's some questions. I think I think Taysom is probably done for. I think if he wants to keep playing football, I kind of hope we work something out with these older players where we can make it, easier on our salary cap situation. But as far as players go, um, I think we're okay without Taysom Hill. I think that's over with. And I would like Taysom to be in the Saints Ring of Honor. I really would. Definitely in the Saints Hall of Fame. Doesn't qualify for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but there should be a separate wing in the Pro Football Hall of Fame for a guy like Taysom Hill. So there's that. So maybe you don't put his bust in there, but how about just a separate wing, one room, two pictures, Frank Gifford, Taysom Hill, and yeah, that can be separate from the rest of the hall. Here's some guys that did some stuff that no one in pro football will ever do again. Now you can go and look at all of the sack stat getters and the touchdown throwers, and yeah, the only thing Frank Gifford did that Taysom Hill didn't was kick field goals. I don't know. I'd like to see Taysom give it a swing. But anyway, yeah, I think we're done with Taysom. Uh, Demario, the thing with Demario is he's been playing way better than his salary ever, amounted to. So maybe he wants to go and play one more year and actually get paid. I I don't know how much the man makes. He's obviously worth 15 to 20 million a year. So we're going to get into the weeds with the contract talks whenever the off season progresses. Those are three guys I thought I would mention. One more, Alante Taylor. Uh, if he wants to get paid like an outside corner, and there are teams that may want to pay him like an outside corner, then yeah, he's probably going to make a ton of money. Somewhere between 15 and 20 million. And I think the highest paid nickelback is probably what he would want to be if he got paid like a nickel. And that's got to be somewhere around 15 million. I propose 17 million. I think that's exactly what Alante Taylor wants to get paid. And I think that's exactly what the Saints would have to pay if they want to keep him. So you can bring Cam back, try to readjust the dead money we would take on with him and with Hill and with Demario Davis. That's the kind of stuff I'm thinking about. Try to alleviate some of this dead money, keep them on the roster and kind of extend the contract, spread the money out and make it worth our while too. I don't want to be paying a bunch of dead money for a player that's not on a team. Cam Jordan, he's definitely worth keeping another year, or maybe two, as a rotational piece. And Demario Davis can be your starter for as long as he wants to be if he's going to keep playing the way he's playing. I know we've got Danny Stutzman waiting in the wings. So the draft, huh? I can't wait to get into the mocks. We're going to be doing a bunch of them here, and the Saints are set to pick eighth overall. That's not going to change. The top of the draft order is set unless there's some trades. We pretty much know what's going to happen in the top 10. I'm starting to think that when it's all said and done in the draft, pick eight's going to come up, and the Saints are going to have their choice between, I'm going to say, four primary players. I'm going to say safety Caleb Downs will be an option at pick eight. I think edge rusher David Bailey out of Texas Tech will be there with pick eight. There's a chance running back Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame will be there. And I think possibly wide receiver Makai Lemon out of USC will still be there. So if you had your choice between safety Caleb Downs out of Ohio State, running back Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame, wide receiver Makai Lemon out of USC, or edge rusher David Bailey out of Texas Tech, what would you do? And my last video was talking about my top 10 prospects. I'm still of the belief that if those four players are sitting there for you and you don't have an opportunity to trade down, I'd probably go with Jeremiah Love at running back. Though I would not be upset with any of those four picks. I'm pretty sure that those are four that we're going to have to choose from. There's a chance Love gets drafted before eight. There's a chance Lemon gets drafted before eight. I would pick wide receiver Carnell Tate and wide receiver Makai Lemon over Jordan Tyson right now. Tyson's got that injury history that just really scares me. He's had multiple injuries over the course of his college career, all types of injuries. It's almost to the point where you would consider saying he's injury prone. And why would you want to draft someone who's injury prone? So Jordan Tyson's number 3 on my list when it comes to wide receivers right now because of that. If he was still sitting there at pick 8, yeah, I would still go with Love or Downs or Bailey before Tyson. Now that's just me, but I would take Tate and I would take Lemon before Tyson. It's just the injury history. It bothers me. I think that for sure you're going to see two quarterbacks go before the Saints pick at 8. Mendoza, and if Dante Moore is draft eligible, he is, and if he's in the draft, he'll be the second quarterback. If Dante Moore doesn't come out, then there won't be another quarterback taken besides Mendoza before we pick at 8. So Dante Moore comes out. It'll be Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore, Arvell Reese will get drafted. Ruben Bain will get drafted. At least one offensive tackle will get drafted, either Fano or Malagoa. That's 5 players, and 2 more will go before we pick. And I've mentioned 4 of them that'll be available. So, yeah, and I'll take either one of those 4. So, I think that's what the Saints are looking at in the draft. And we're going to focus on that a lot more in future videos. As far as my predictions went at the beginning of the year, I was thinking about doing a whole video pulling up those old predictions, but I might just throw them in here now. I expected the Saints to have 29 passing touchdowns this year, which would have been a lot. I think we finished the year with 18, so I was way off. 11 touchdowns. 11 passing touchdowns I thought we would have this season that we don't. Now you think about how slow our first quarter starts have been. Every game we start slow. 17 games, almost no touchdowns in the first quarter. 17 games, yeah, you're missing 11 passing touchdowns from my prediction. I bet a lot of those could have been in the first quarter if Kellen Moore could have figured it out. Another thing is toward the end of the game when Spencer Rattler was the quarterback and we were trying to come back, we fell short quite a bit. We saw Tyler Shuck have a knack for bringing the team back late in games. So there's a couple more passing touchdowns there the first half of the season when Spencer Rattler was our quarterback. You could have had a couple of more touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Certainly a bunch more touchdowns in the first quarter. So that's where my mistake came in. I thought we would finish with 15 interceptions. I think when it was all said and done, Shuck had 6 and Rattler had I want to say Rattler had 5 or 6. So we were a little under on the interceptions as far as my predictions went. And in the running game, yeah, Calvin Kamara, I wanted him to be the team MVP. And yeah, even when he was healthy, he wasn't getting anything done. The running game is something we're going to have to get corrected. You're not going to win any games if your starter in Alvin Kamara and your backup in Kendre Miller are always hurt. So I'm thinking we need to address running back. I'm thinking that the future of this team is without Kamara and without Miller. Now you might renegotiate Kamara and try to keep him maybe 1, maybe 2 more years. He's set to make like 17 million next year or some kind of insane dead cap hit if we don't extend him or don't keep him. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done on this offense. As far as wide receiver goes, man, oh man, oh man. You get a healthy Devon Vele to go with Chris Olave. Then you get Trey Palmer back, who is going to be a speed element and a return guy. Then you get Jalen Polk, who was a second round draft pick. Now, the talent of Polk, if he meets that, he could be a very good number 2 wide receiver, number 3 wide receiver. Now that's the plan. You draft a guy, New England drafted him in the second round. You draft a guy in the second round, you expect him to be a starter. And I think Polk's got the ability to at least be a solid number 3. So, how's that for a wide receiving core? Chris Olave, Devon Vele, Jalen Polk, Trey Palmer, Bub Means. There you go. Keep Mason Tipton or Dante Pettis or Kevin Austin. And yeah, the way Tyler Shuck elevates the play of the people around him, and you may have a pretty good wide receiving core already. Of course, wide receiver is one of the most important positions of need for a lot of people. So I expect us to address wide receiver in the draft. And whether you get one in the first round that's going to be your starter right away, or whether you get one in later rounds that can come in and compete with these guys like Palmer and Bub Means and Jalen Polk, who we haven't really seen anything from, because they've been hurt. You go and get a receiver in the mid rounds, come and compete with those guys, and we might be pretty good at receiver. Tight end, Juwan Johnson finishes the year with such good numbers, except for touchdowns, but such good numbers. The stat sheet, you look at it, the rest of the league may be thinking Juwan Johnson is a top five tight end. Well, we know what he is. He's a guy that drops a lot of balls, and when he doesn't drop balls, he fumbles. He had a nice little streak toward the end of the year, not dropping the ball, not turning the ball over. And then, you know, first play, we fumble the ball in this last game. The first drive, I think we've had 4 or 5, maybe 6 fumbles on the first drive of games this year. We didn't lose one of them, but, golly, man. So, Juwan Johnson to me, is he worth the money? Yeah. Is he going to be a number one tight end that's going to make a big difference for your team? I think a lot of teams out there probably think Juwan Johnson can do that and would want him on their team and pay him maybe even a little more than we're paying him. Yeah, because they haven't lived through it. So we're living through it. When it's all said and done, I'm fine with Juwan Johnson. We need a better run blocking tight end. But other than that, Juwan's not overpaid as long as he stays healthy, catches the ball, and doesn't fumble, and we can be excited about him. But yeah, I would like some better depth at tight end. And the offensive line, my goodness. Well, you're good at tackle with Banks and Fuanga. If you want to re-sign Awesome Richards or keep Awesome Richards on your team if he's still got a contract, and if you want to keep either Awesome Richards or Will Sherman, that wouldn't be a bad option one for a backup. I wouldn't want them to be your primary backup. I still would want to improve backup tackle, but you keep one of those guys. Both of them can swing. Both of them can play guard. So keep one of them. And I think you re-sign Dylan Redunds and Luke Fortner. Now, I love the centers in the draft this year, and I think if one of them falls to you and you grab him, he'll be an upgrade from Fortner. But, play it safe. Re-sign Fortner. I don't have a lot of complaints about him as a backup center. And Dylan Redunds, I have no complaints with him being our primary backup guard. I also believe that if Redunds has to start for a majority of games, it won't be a huge liability. I don't see how you go and get a cheap guard that's going to be better than Redunds. You would have to pay a little more than you're going to have to pay Redunds if you want to upgrade from Redunds. I'm thinking free agency, you go get that starting guard, whether you're paying $14 million to the guy out of Cleveland or the guy out of the Raiders, or if you're going to go up even higher and pay closer to 20 million for the guy out of Buffalo. You go and get yourself a starting guard, someone who's going to come in and start, and they're going to start. But re-sign Dylan Redunds and keep him as a backup. Yeah, there you go. That's the offense. I'm going to talk about the defense in another video. Uh, I'm going to cut it short here. Just my ramblings. Just let's call this video 1 of Saints final wrap up. And yeah, we're pretty excited. I'm excited. The future's bright with Tyler Shuck as our quarterback. Those are things we need to fix on the offense. Yeah, and we'll look at the defense in another video. I'm Joe. Subscribe to Rosenfield 10. I promise I'll have more prepared. I feel like when I have time to record, I really should get something down. Just hadn't had time to prepare anything yet, but a mock draft is on its way. I think on Thursday, we're going to be doing a mock draft without trades. So we're going to look at what a draft could be like for the Saints with no movement at all. And then we're going to talk about some potential moves that could be made during the draft. And let's see. And we'll end up comparing drafts with trades and drafts without trades. It's going to be hard to get somebody to want to trade up with you when you're picking eighth, unless there's somebody there that somebody desperately wants so bad. And if that player's that good, the Saints could just go ahead and grab him. So subscribe to Rosenfield 10. We're going to do more stuff about the Saints, of course. Until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Who dat?